Good day to everybody. My name is Nirmal Ganguly. I am a volunteer in Ramakrishna Vedanta Society of Philippines. We are so grateful to Bimhanandaji Maharaj, who is the Minister of Vivekananda Vedanta Society of uh, Vancouver, and he will speak today on what is Maya illusion, according to Swami Vivekananda. Uh, as you all know, we started this lecture series to give people sustenance and spiritual empowerment to help them to face this calamity and pandemic. And also, our endeavor is to introduce with some of the scriptures in a very generic fashion so that we get to benefit from them. Many of you have heard Swami Vivekananda and heard his beautiful songs, but for the I would like to introduce him in a very brief way. Swami Vivekananda has been Minister of Vivekananda Vedanta Society of British Columbia, Canada since December 2019. He joined the Ramakrishna Order in 1988. He was initiated by Revered Swami Bhuteshananda ji. He served Advaita Ashram for over 25 years in its publication department. He translated several books from Bengali into English and Hindi and has edited over 100 books. With this brief introduction, we would request Swami Udarananda ji to kindly say a few words before Swami Vivekananda ji gives his kind lecture. Thank you very much.
Most revered Maharaj, I convey my respectful pranams. Today my laptop is not working, something has gone wrong, so I'm using my phone. I'm not quite familiar with how it works. It is not so very user friendly, but I welcome you and I'm grateful to you for kindly accepting our request. So, Revered Maharaj, I will request you to please start so that without any ado, already we have given introduction and everything. Please, Maharaj, I will request you to please.
Okay.
Bless us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. So nice to be with you all today, and of course many of you, most of you I'm seeing for the first time. So today's topic, as you know, what is Maya? According to Swami Vivekananda. So all of you, those who have read a little of Sri Ramakrishna's works and Swami Vivekananda's works and also our scriptures, all of you are, I'm sure, familiar with this word Maya. But maybe many of us don't understand its true meaning, its true connotation. So Swami Vivekananda has explained this in a absolutely brilliant way, fantastic way, as he has done everything else. And the true conception of the word Maya is very important if we want to enter into Vedanta. So that's why I chose this topic. I had spoken on this topic even here before in Vancouver. So now generally Maya is used actually rather incorrectly, Swamiji says, to denote illusion or delusion or some such thing. But as the theory of Maya forms one of the pillars upon which Vedanta rests, it is necessary that it should be properly understood. So most of the time I will put Swami Vivekananda's words before you, and just sometimes I will give a little explanation when I feel that it is needed. So Swamiji says that the oldest idea of Maya that we find in Vedic literature is in the sense of delusion. We find some passages like Indra through his Maya assumed various forms. And all of you who have watched some TV serial on this, gods and goddesses and all, so they just wave their hand and something happens. So we call that Maya. Or some demon, he does something and some weapon comes into his hand, or he is multiplied into 10. So we call that all that Maya. So here it is, Maya is used in the sense of delusion. So Indro Maya bhi Pururupa iyate. Indra through his Maya assumed various forms. Here it means like something magic and all. But after this, when we find this in the Vedas, after that, we find that in the later scriptures, the word Maya disappeared altogether. But the idea behind it was developing. So, in one of our scriptures, the question is raised, why can't we know the secret of the universe? In one of our scriptures, it is said, what is the reason that we are in ignorance? So, the answer, it is said, because we talk in vain, because we are satisfied with the things of the senses, and because we are running after desires, we, as it were, cover the reality with a mist. Niharena pravrita. We cover the reality with a mist. If something is there before me, I cover it with a cloth. I can't see that thing. So we ourselves cover that reality because we are running after worldly things. So that covering is called Maya here. Okay. So this is another meaning, that Maya is that which causes our ignorance. Okay. So first meaning we've discussed is some kind of delusion or magic. Second meaning what we have seen is Maya is equal to ignorance or something which causes our ignorance. Okay. Now, much later, in one of the later Upanishads, we find the word Maya reappearing, but this time a transformation has taken place in it. So much new meaning has been attached. For example, in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, there is a sentence, know nature to be Maya, and the ruler of this Maya is the Lord Himself. Mayam tu prakritim vidyam mayinam tu maheshwara. So here two realities come. One is Maya and the ruler of Maya. So one is matter and one is spirit. So those who have read a little of Sankhya philosophy will understand this better. So Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is the soul. So here Maya means matter. Prakriti and those who know the stotra to Holy Mother, the hymn to Holy Mother composed by Swami Abhedananda ji, the first line is Prakritim Paramam. Paramam Prakritim. So here the Divine Mother, Holy Mother, has been identified with Prakriti. And in the passage from Shvetashvatara Upanishad, what we have seen, Maya is also equated with Prakriti. So this makes three meanings. First, Maya is some magic or delusion. Second, Maya is ignorance. Third meaning we have seen that Maya is matter or Prakriti. Okay. Now, let us come to the wonderful explanation which Swami Vivekananda gives. What does he say? He says, Maya is a simple statement of facts, what we are and what we see around us. I'll just ask you to pay attention. Now we are slowly going into the deeper territory. So, see, just pay attention to the words. Maya is a simple statement of facts, what we are and what we see around us. So when we hear this, we will say, so what is so great about that? We know what we are and we are aware of what we see around us. So what is there to know about that? Naturally, the question will come in our mind. But unfortunately, we don't know what we are. We are ignorant of our real nature. Also, what we see around us, what the world is like, we don't have a correct conception of that. That is the main cause of our ignorance. So we have to understand that what is the nature of the world, what actually we see around us. That, Swami Vivekananda says, that fact is Maya. So actually understanding Maya means what? Understanding our living conditions, the world in which we are living, because we are all living in the world. Our hopes, our aspirations, all our beliefs, everything is based upon our understanding of the world. So all these have to be regulated by getting a true conception of this fact, the fact of the world. Now, what do we see in the world? What do we see? We see all these things, matter and all, that is another thing. But actually, what do we see at every step in the world? Swami Vivekananda answers that we see contradictions. At every step, if we just pay attention, we see contradictions or the pair of opposites. Pair of opposites, which in Sanskrit is called dvandva. Dvandva. Like heat, cold, praise, blame, honor, dishonor. All these things are always going on in the world. Okay. The existence of the world itself is a contradiction. Just imagine the importance of this statement. If someone asks us whether the world exists or does not exist, there is no one answer to this question. Just think about it. How deep it is. How the existence of the world is a contradiction. You know, those who have read Vedanta, often by a cursory study of Vedanta, they say that, Vedanta says that the world has no existence. But Vedanta doesn't say that the world has no existence in the sense that a castle in the air has no existence. A castle in the air has no existence, but we never see the castle. but we are seeing this world. So if something doesn't have any existence at all, then how can we see that? So what is the meaning when Vedanta says that the world does not exist? What is the meaning? The meaning is that the world has no absolute existence. No absolute existence, mind you. This also has to be explained. This means that the world exists only in relation to my mind, to your mind, and to the mind of everybody else. We see the world with the five senses. But if we had another sense, suppose we had a sixth sense, we would see in it something more. If we had another sense, it would appear as still something different. And suppose a very basic example, which everybody is familiar with, when we are happy, healthy, we have enough to eat, everything is going on well with us, we see the world as a very happy place. If someone asks us, what is the world? Oh, very good. Everything is good. But if some calamity takes place, if we are terribly sick, or if some near and dear one passes away, what happens? Immediately, the same world which was appearing beautiful to us maybe a few minutes ago now appears as a terrible place. So what does all this show? If the world had an absolute existence, all these things would never have taken place, these changes in our mind. But the very fact that to some people the world appears to be beautiful, to some people it appears to be ugly, to some people it appears to be terrible, to some people it is a neutral thing, neutral sort of thing. The very fact that this is happening shows that the world has no absolute existence. It means that it has no unchangeable, immovable, infinite existence. Absolute means it cannot change. But the world is changing every moment. Nothing in the world is static for even one moment. So something that is changing every moment, how can it have absolute existence? It can never have. But in spite of all this, we cannot say that the world does not exist. If something did not exist at all, it could never be the object of our perception. So see the fun, see the contradiction. We cannot say that the world exists because it is always changing. It has no absolute existence. But we cannot also say that the world does not exist because we are perceiving the world every moment of our lives. So see how deep this thinking is, how Swami Vivekananda explains this. So what is the world? The world is a mixture of existence and non-existence. So see, right from the beginning, we have a contradiction here. The very world on which we pin all our hopes, all our aspirations, all our goals, all our desires, that world also does not actually exist in the absolute sense. It is a mixture of existence as well as non-existence. This is such a deep thing that ordinary people like us can never grasp this truth unless great sages, great rishis put this before us. Okay, now let us come to our practical existence. Now, it is obvious that since the world itself is like that, then everything in the world will also be full of contradictions. When the world itself is a contradiction, then all that the world consists of has to be full of contradictions, it logically follows. But to make the matter clear, we will take some wonderful examples which Swami Vivekananda has given. Let us take these examples one by one. First, Swamiji says there is contradiction in knowledge. Contradiction in knowledge. It seems that man can know everything if he only wants to know. But before he has gone a few steps, he finds an adamantine wall which he cannot pass. He cannot know beyond a certain circle. This is a contradiction. We want to know, but up to a stage only we can know. After that, we feel that a great wall is standing before us. Second example, with our every breath, every impulse of our heart asks us to be selfish. We think that let us only care for ourselves or our dear and near ones. Every impulse of our heart prompts us to be selfish. But at the same time, there is some power beyond us which says that selfishness is not good. It is only unselfishness which is good. So see, this is a dvandva, a contradiction which is going on, a fight which is going on in our hearts. And when there is no contradiction, there is no opposition, there can be no fight, there can be no struggle. Another example, every child is a born optimist. He dreams golden dreams. In youth, he becomes still more optimistic. It is extremely difficult to convince a young person that there is a thing known as defeat. There is a thing known as degradation. There is a thing known as death. He can never imagine those things. But old age comes and life is a mass of ruins. Dreams vanish into thin air, and the same man who was a born optimist in his youth becomes a pessimist. Another contradiction. Okay. And last, we have already seen that the man who has enough to eat and drink, who is healthy, is an optimist. He avoids all mentions of misery, for that frightens him. Tell him of the sorrows and sufferings of the world, he will say, oh, I am safe. Don't bring those dark pictures before me. I am okay. I do not fear cold and heat. I've got air conditioner, I've got heaters, I'm protected. But on the other hand, there are others in the world who are dying of cold and hunger. If you tell them that the world is good, they will not hear you. Their experience tells them otherwise. So, we are oscillating between optimism and pessimism. This is the world. This is the nature of the world. Some are happy, some are sad, some are hungry, some are well fed, some are ignorant, some are educated. So the whole world, we see, it is full of contradictions. So this is one meaning which Swami Vivekananda puts before us, that this is the meaning of Maya. The statement of fact, what the world is. And what is the world? Full of contradictions, and contradictions means conflicts. Okay. And another shade of this meaning I will put before you, another connotation of the word Maya in the words of Swami Vivekananda himself. What does he say? Maya is irrationality, when we don't remain rational, when we become irrational. Why? Because of our attachment to the world. So that irrationality, which is caused by our attachment to the world, is also Maya. How? It will be clear with the wonderful examples which are given. The mother is nursing a child with great care. Her child is very dear to her. All her soul, her life is in that child. We know that. But the child grows, becomes a man, and being ill fated, he becomes a blackguard and a brute. He becomes a cruel man, and now he ill treats his mother every day, maybe even beats her, yet the mother clings to the child. The mother cannot leave her child. And when her reason awakes, she covers it with the idea of love. She says, I cannot leave the child because I love him. But she does not know that this feeling is not love. It is something which has got hold of her nerves. It is that terrible attachment which she cannot shake off. She cannot shake off the bondage she is in. That is why she becomes irrational. She thinks it is love. She keeps on telling this lie to herself and to everybody else. But deep inside her, she knows that it is a bondage which she cannot break. So she becomes irrational because of the attachment. Then another great example Swami Vivekananda gives, we all are after the golden fleece. Golden fleece means something we wish to get which nobody has got before. Like running after the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to say. And everyone thinks that that will be his. He will get something which no one has got before. He will be permanently happy, blissful. But every reasonable man sees that his chance of achieving this is practically nil. Maybe 1 in 100 million or not even that. Yet everybody struggles for that. So again, we become irrational. We aim for the highly improbable or even the impossible sometimes. This is also Maya according to Swami Vivekananda. Then the most important example he says that death is stalking day and night over this earth of ours. But at the same time, we think that we will live eternally. It is obvious when we see the plans, if we just turn the eyes on ourselves and see the plans we make, the thousands of years we plan ahead, children, grandchildren, maybe their children also. So from that it is obvious that we never really think that we shall die. We never really think that we shall, after a few years, we have to go away from this world. So a question was once asked of King Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandava brothers in the Mahabharata, that what is the most wonderful thing on earth? Wonderful means, actually the word here is Ascharya. Ascharya means surprising. What is the most surprising thing in the world? So Yudhishthira answered, the most surprising thing is Every day, people are dying around us, yet we think we will never die. And that is Maya. So, these are the various meanings of Maya. We will go into a detail now. But before that, I just want to show you the points which we have discussed so that we can have a clear conception of that. So, here I cannot see. Let me share the screen 1 second. I can't, this allow is blocked. I don't have the freedom to share my screen. Only if you allow, I can.
Okay. I'll just try.
The administrator has to allow, otherwise I cannot share.
Does anybody know how to share? Nirmalda, does anybody know how to share in Google Meet? Nirmalda,
No, I know how to share. You have to allow me.
Sorry, I mean to give you the host access. Nirmalda?
Yeah. Yes.
If you make him the co-admin, if you add Maharajji as co-admin, then only he can allow.
Does anybody know how to do that in Google Meet? I'm not sure about Google Meet.
Satya ji showed something in the screen earlier. I don't know, that time there was no problem.
No, but you have to give Maharajji the right to do it.
Right.
Yes.
To
Share the screen.
Okay, 1 minute. Let me see. Okay, now can you see the screen?
No.
Yes. Yes, Maharaj. We are hearing you actually. We are even seeing.
Now can you see the screen?
Not the shared
No,
screen,
Maharaj.
Maharajji.
We cannot see your screen.
We can
Now
see
can
you.
you see?
Allow.
Now can you see the photo?
Maharaj ji.
Yes, Maharaj.
Can you see
Maharajji,
Maya?
Swami Vimahan.
we can see
Okay.
you, but we cannot see the shared screen.
Share screen.
Share screen. Huh?
Here, but it is showing
Yes, now
that
you
you are
can-
sharing your entire screen.
You see, Maharaj ji, you can now share the screen. I think you will be able to do it now.
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. Are you seeing the notes on Maya?
No, we are seeing only you.
Share.
Your face.
Wait.
Not notes.
He was present.
Asin to precise this one like this in his computer. Present now.
Present, huh?
Yan.
He has
Maraming
to.
things.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the one to presenting na yan.
Oh,
Yes,
now
yes.
it is in now it is enabling us.
Okay.
Now can you see the notes?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj, we can see it.
Yeah,
notes
so
on Maya.
see what we have discussed till now, Maya, first meaning was some sort of magic that Indra through his Maya assumed various forms. Second meaning was that something which had covered the ultimate reality, which is called ignorance. Third meaning we have discussed Prakriti or nature. The fourth meaning, statement of facts. That our whole life is a contradiction, a mixture of existence and non-existence, which is called dvandva or the pair of opposites. And the fifth meaning is attachment and irrationality born of that attachment. So this also covers the reality. So these meanings we have discussed in very brief manner. Now I will go into a little detail. Okay. So these contradictions are surrounding us on every side, in our knowledge, in our experiences. This fact we encounter on all sides. You see, the eternal problem of good and evil. All of us are very, very dismayed when we see some person suffering, something bad happening, some corruption, some stealing, etc. So we pray to God, God, why do we see this evil? Why can't everything be good in the world? But everything, if we just have a look at history, we see that everything has never been good in the world. So if we study the many other scriptures of other religions, this problem of evil, they have no real solution to. But the solution is here. What is the solution? That good and evil are not two different things. Here also we see the contradiction. Actually, people, what do they think? When we start our life in the world, what do we think? That one day all the evil in the world will be eliminated, only good will remain, all unhappiness will go away, only unhappiness will remain. We think that evolution, one of the features of evolution is that it eliminates evil. And this evil, if it is continuously eliminated in that way, only good will remain. But this argument is fallacious. It's wrong because it is based upon two wrong assumptions. First, that good and evil are completely separate things. We think that good is separate, evil is separate, all evil will go, only good will remain. But we forget that good and evil are actually the obverse and the reverse of the same coin. If you cut a coin, and head is like here and tail is like here, then will it be a coin anymore? It will not be. So the two sides of the coin can never be separated. Similarly, good and evil can never be separated. How? We will discuss. So this is one wrong assumption which we make, that good and evil are completely separate. So evil will go and good will remain. And another worse assumption which we make is that amount of good is increasing and the amount of evil is decreasing. This is another wrong assumption which we make. We don't know whether good is increasing or evil. We have no means of knowing that. So how good and evil, when they come together in our lives. Swami Vivekananda explains in a wonderful way. We see only one side, but till our eyes are opened, we don't see the other side. That is why we are only searching for good, but that can never happen. Swamiji says, take the example of a man who lives in a forest. who does not know how to cultivate the mind, who cannot read a book, who has not heard of anything called writing. But if he is severely wounded, that savage sort of man, he is soon all right again. But we who call ourselves cultured, we die if we get a scratch. Something little happens, we have to run to the doctor. Now, another example I'll give you. Here, see what has happened. Mentally, mentally that man has grown from the savage to the cultured man, but physically his power of resistance has gone down. So, along with good, evil has also come. Another example, now we know that things are getting cheaper. Industrialization, mass production. One factory produces thousands of things of the same type. So naturally they can sell it very cheap. We are very pleased when we get the same thing very as cheap. We see, oh, see, this seller is selling for $20. Just see Amazon. Amazon is selling for $15. Go and purchase that. So what is the result of this mass production? The result is to make one person rich, the owner of that production, thousands of small businesses who cannot give that thing as cheap as that a big person can give, they are ruined. Thousands of people who are doing small business, who cannot compete with those who are producing millions of that thing, they are ruined. They go out of business. So things are getting cheaper. People will get that thing cheaper. But because to make one person rich, thousands become poor. So now here, what will you call good? Tell me. What is it? Is this good or is it evil? If you see the sides of that rich person, and if you see the side of the consumers, they will say it is good. We are getting it cheap. But if you see from the side of those poor small businesses who are ruined, for them it is evil. So every event in the world is like that. You cannot call any event either completely good or completely evil. Good and evil are not separate things at all. Another example, daily example I will give you. I get a stomach ache. I am in terrible pain. I call it evil. My mood is bad. I think the world is a horrible place. I am suffering so much. But if nobody in the world falls sick at all, then the whole medical industry, all the doctors, nurses, pharmaceutical companies, everybody will be out of job within a few days. Thousands of them will starve. The whole industry will collapse if we don't get sick. So sickness, what will you call? Good or evil? It is evil for the person who suffers. But because of that evil, thousands of persons, millions of people are getting their livelihood. So from these examples, we can see that good and evil are not separate things at all. This is because always there is a contradiction in everything in the world. Very simple example, a seesaw. If there is a seesaw, one portion goes down, only then the other portion can come up. So what will you say? Seesaw is going down or seesaw is coming up? Both are true. One portion going down means another portion going up. If a wave is created, a hollow is also created automatically. So what will you say? Is it a wave or a hollow? It depends on how you look at that. So every event in the world is good as well as evil. If you want to get rid of all the good, evil in the world, you also have to get rid of all the good. Two teams are competing. Two teams are competing in a football field. Only one will win. The other has to lose. So, if you asked the two teams, how has the match turned out for you? The winner will say, oh, wonderful match. The loser will say, no, it was not a good match. So, was the match good or bad? It was both, depending on how you look at it. So, if you want to eliminate both losers and winners, you want to have only winners, you cannot have any match at all. Because there can never be only winner. There has to be a loser, because without the loser, the winner has, the term winning has no meaning at all. Without a loser, how can there be a winner? Similarly, without evil, there cannot be any good. It has no meaning. The term has no meaning. Good is related to evil, just as winning is related to losing. Only if there is a loser can there be a winner. So only if there is evil can there be good. This we never think, we never go deep into things. So unfortunately, the whole life, our whole life, we spend in this vain attempt to get only good and avoid all evil. But since good and evil are not separate, that cannot be done. It is impossible. It is impossible. That is why when we try to be happy in this way, when we try to be happy through worldly means, we always fail. We are bound to fail. We cannot be happy that way. So, because all this is within Maya. Maya means the statement of facts, what the world is. So, Swamiji says that everywhere we find these contradictions. As we emerge out of the senses, of the sense of brute savages, when we emerge out of that, when we evolve, we develop higher powers of enjoyment. But at the same time, we develop higher powers of suffering too. It always happens together. The cultured man, the nerves become finer and capable of more suffering. In every society, we find the ignorant common man, when abused, he doesn't mind so much. But if a gentleman is there, he cannot bear a single word of even disrespect. He has become so finely nerved. So, misery also increases with our susceptibility to happiness. Okay, now comes what follows from this. What is there practical to learn from this? How can we learn? What benefit will we get by understanding this truth, understanding what is Maya? The benefit is we will realize this tremendous fact. Now please pay attention. This tremendous thing which Swami Vivekananda says, what is that fact? As we increase our power to be happy, we also increase our power to suffer. And we who are progressing know that the more we progress, the more avenues are opened to pain as well as pleasure. And this is Maya. This tremendous contradiction is Maya. That we are going after happiness, not knowing that we are also simultaneously also opening the way for suffering to enter. It will happen, it is bound to happen, we cannot stop that. Reformers arise and preach that learning, wealth, and culture should not be in the hand of a few persons. They try to make it accessible to all. But these may bring happiness to some. But as culture comes, physical happiness lessens. The knowledge of happiness brings the knowledge of unhappiness also. So where will you go? Where will you go now? The day only good will remain and all evil will go, that day will never come in this world. Because good and evil are the same. The least amount of prosperity we enjoy is causing the same amount of misery elsewhere. Because that prosperity is coming from somewhere. It is not coming out of the thin sky. If we have something, we are depriving somebody else of that thing. That is the law. Animals are living upon plants. Men are living upon animals. And worst of all, men are also living upon each other. One who exploits is living upon those who are exploited. The strong are living upon the weak. And this is Maya. This is going on everywhere. You cannot stop it. Suppose we see in a video, the National Geographic and all you have seen, a tiger attacks a deer. That poor deer is killed. Now, what will you call that? Suppose you pass a law tomorrow that deers cannot be killed. The deers will be saved, but the tigers will die of hunger. So which side will you go? What is the solution? Unfortunately, there is no solution to this problem in this world. In this world, there is no solution. We have to go beyond the world. I'll quote Saint Augustine. You must have heard his name. Saint Augustine, a Christian saint, says, some things are interdependent such that you cannot conceive of one thing without the other. Mountains and valleys are like that. Light and darkness are like that. So many concepts contain the idea of the other that we might take this duality to be a law of reality. This is the law of the world. Consider light and shadow. A shadow is a darkness cast by an object blocking the light. If there were no light, there could be no shadow. So such things are going on day and night. And to find a solution of this problem within this world is absolutely impossible. Why should it be so? This question can't be formulated. When we see something that it is like that, it is like that. It is a statement of fact. There is no how or why in it. If we ask, why can't a tiger live by eating grass? Why does it have to hunt animals? There is no answer to that. Creation is like that. So, similarly, the creation is like this, full of contradictions, and that is Maya. So, Maya is a statement of the fact of this universe, how it is going on. People will get frightened when they hear this. Oh my God, we have been searching for only happiness in this life. Do you mean to say that we can never get only happiness? We will get misery along with that? Unfortunately, yes. This is the fact. And ignoring this fact, shutting our eyes will be of no use. What is true is true. Hiding facts is not the way to find a remedy. So this is Maya. So it is not a theory for the explanation of the world. It is simply a statement of facts as they exist. That the very basis of our being is contradiction, that everywhere we have to move through this tremendous contradiction, that wherever there is good, there must also be evil, and wherever there is evil, there must be some good. Wherever there is life, death must follow as its shadow, and everyone who smiles will have to weep, and vice versa. And this state of things cannot be remedied. We may imagine there'll be a place where there'll be only good and no evil. We shall only smile and never weep. But that is impossible in the nature of things, for the conditions of the world will remain the same. Wherever there is the power of producing a smile in us, there also lurks the power of producing tears. Wherever there is a power of producing happiness, there lurks the power of making us miserable. We can't have only one. They always go together. So this is what is Maya. Now the question is, then what is the way out? There must be some way out, otherwise there is no use of living. We should all commit suicide then. Fortunately, there is a way out, and all the saints and sages have shown us that way. But that is a separate topic, how to go beyond Maya. So I think we have reached the end of our time. So this, what we have discussed, it will not do if we just consider it as a intellectual pursuit. It will not help us. We have to imbibe this fact. We have to make it a part of our being, this understanding that good and evil are the same. There is no freedom either in good or in evil. When we understand this, when we understand the true nature of the world, then only we will seek true freedom. But till we understand this, we will go about in circles in a merry-go-round. Merry-go-round, what happens? One person starts from here, he goes the whole circle, he comes back at the same place. So in the world we will start happiness, 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 happiness. In the end, we will find that we have come where we started from. We haven't got anything. The resultant is zero. We have had many experiences in that circle, but when we have had happiness, we also had suffering. All of us who are old enough realize the fact. You can't hide the fact. We have had happiness, but we haven't had absolute happiness because there is no such thing. So what is the way out? The way out has been taught by all the saints and sages, but that is a separate topic, so I leave that for the future. So I think, please think about this carefully. That is what is needed. If we just hear it, lecture over, let us go home, it won't help us. We will remain where we are. We will go round and in our vain search for happiness in this world. We don't learn from what we see. Sometimes we don't even learn from our own experience. But when we keep thinking about this and compare our experience at every stage of our life with this teaching, we will know how true this teaching is. So let us imbibe this. Don't be afraid. Let us imbibe this. Then we will be ready to know the path which saints and sages have shown to make us completely free from all this, and completely free from ever, forever. It will be forever. It will not be like some small pleasure we enjoy, some nice things we eat. Oh, nice. In 1 minute it is gone. That bliss is not like that. That bliss is eternal bliss. When we go beyond this Maya. So, how to do that? We will see at some later date if God permits. So, I think I will end here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. So before starting the question and answer, Nirmalda asked me that the songs which have been uploaded in the YouTube, so I can, because singing here it will take a lot of time. I have to drag the harmonium, set everything up. So I will just play 1 or 2 songs, maybe 2 songs, one in Hindi, one in Bengali, so that if you like, I will be very glad. So first I will play a Hindi bhajan which I have recently uploaded on Sri Ramchandra. That is that many of you must have heard. भजु दीन बंधु दिनेश दानव दैत्य वंश निकंदनम रघुनंद आनंद कंद कौशल चंद दशरथ नंदनम रघुनंद आनंद कंद कौशल चंद दशरथ नंदनम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजो मन हरण भव भय दारुणम सिर मुकुट कुंडल तिलक चारु दारु अंग विभूषणम सिर मुकुट कुंडल तिलक चारु दारु अंग विभूषणम आजानु भुज शर चाप धर संग्राम जित खर दूषणम आजानु भुज शर चाप धर संग्राम जित खर दूषणम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजो मन हरण भव भय दारुणम इति वदति तुलसीदास शंकर शेष मुनि मनरंजनम इति वदति तुलसीदास शंकर शेष मुनि मनरंजनम मम हृदय कंज निवास कुरु कामादि खलदल गंजनम मम हृदय कंज निवास कुरु कामादि खलदल गंजनम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजु मन हरण भव भय दारुणम नव कंज लोचन कंज मुख कर कंज पद कंजारुणम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजु मन हरण भव भय दारुणम So, one Bengali song also we can have. This is a new song on Swami Vivekananda. প্রণাম লহো হে যোগী বর প্রণাম লহো হে যোগী বর মূর্ত মহেশ্বর উজ্জ্বল ভাস্কর মূর্ত মহেশ্বর উজ্জ্বল ভাস্কর প্রণাম লহো হে যোগী বর ধ্যান মগ্ন দুটি নিমিলিত নিমিলিত কি রহে যে সদা জীব কল্যাণে থাকি ধরায় নেমে যে এলে স্বর্গ হতে তুমি ধরায় নেমে যে এলে স্বর্গ হতে হলে রাম কৃষ্ণের স্নেহের আধার প্রণাম লহুতে যোগী বর বিশ্ববিজয়ী স্বামী বিবেকানন্দ দূর কর মানুষের দুঃখ দ্বন্দ্ব বিশ্ববিজয়ী স্বামী বিবেকানন্দ দূর কর মানুষের দুঃখ দ্বন্দ্ব তোমার বাণী শুনি চেতনা লোভুক প্রাণী তোমার বাণী শুনি চেতনা লোভুক প্রাণী পাপ ধুয়ে হোক নির্মল অন্তর প্রণাম লহুতে যোগী বর সারাটি জীবন ধরে কত সাধনা না জানি সয়েছ প্রভু কত যাতনা সারাটি জীবন ধরে কত সাধনা না জানি সয়েছ প্রভু কত যাতনা আর তো জনের তরে কেঁদেছ কত তুমি আর তো জনের তরে কেঁদেছ কত জীবের মাঝারে খুঁজে পেলে ঈশ্বর প্রণাম লহুতে যোগী বর প্রণাম লহুতে যোগী বর মূর্ত মহেশ্বর উজ্জ্বল ভাস্কর মূর্ত মহেশ্বর উজ্জ্বল ভাস্কর প্রণাম লহুতে প্রণাম লহুতে প্রণাম লহুতে যোগী বর So, I hope you like the songs. Now, if anybody has some questions, welcome.
Maharaj Ji Pranam.
Yeah.
The lecture was very nice, but you left us like Arjun in the view. You did not tell us to way out. But what you are saying is up and down and illness and all those things. But that bitterness we always feel, that should not come in our family or in our house. If it is outside, it's okay. But when that hits you, it's very difficult. Though you know, you have to believe Thakur, you know that is your destiny or everything. But the reality hits you and then it's very difficult to deal with that. So
Yes.
can you please tell?
It is difficult. It is difficult to deal with that. There is only one solution is there, which all the saints and sages have taught. So that is a very detailed discussion. We can take it up later. Actually, Arjuna was not in the Chakravyu. Poor Abhimanyu was in the Chakravyu. Yeah.
We'll have another lecture on this, Maharajji. So we'll have the opportunity to hear from you the solution of the jigsaw puzzle.
Any other question? I would
I
like.
have
Yeah,
I have a
Pranam Maharaj.
question.
Yeah.
Shantanu. Maharajji, Pranam. My name is Shantanu Chakraborty. I am from the Manila Center. Pranam to you for such a wonderful presentation on a Sunday morning here in Manila. Just one question I have, just a brief answer because I know the time is. So I'm just a bit confused when you said that there is always good that will coexist with evil. I fully understand that, I think, from a perspective of our relationship with the external world. I mean, there is always, when we see something good, we should assume that there's something evil associated with it. But my question is, for somebody who plans on going down a path of virtue internally, so how do you reconcile this concept with somebody who wants to eliminate evil from himself or herself,
Hmm.
and be predominantly a quote unquote a good person?
Yeah.
So does that mean that internally also evil must coexist in
Evil,
us?
not in that evil sense. Here it means that whenever there is progress in one direction, there will be some conflict, some contradiction in other direction. So what you are saying is, whenever a person tries to be good, all the bad sanskaras will rise up and he will have to struggle against them. So see, his attempt to be good, always that is also contradiction, because previously those who have no attempt to be good, those who are merry-making, those who are doing all sorts of things, they have no conflict within them. They're quite happy. It seems that they're quite happy. But as soon as a person tries to be good, all those problems start.
Okay.
So see, as soon as, yeah, so till we reach that stage, final stage, it will be there. Sadhana, if you do sadhana, that is struggle. Has to be struggle. Without struggles, there can be no sadhana. So see, your attempt to be good also leads you to some additional work, additional some contradiction.
Understood.
We have
Thank you,
time for
Maharaj.
the last question. So
No,
Pranam Maharaj.
for me, there is no problem. On my side, there is no problem. You can ask as many questions as you like.
Pranam Maharaj.
Yeah.
My question is, why do we then ask to pray even for the welfare of the whole world? Even Swamiji says so.
Sorry, why do we pray for?
Why do we ask to pray if, despite knowing this very fact that whenever there is a good, there will be evil?
Yeah.
But even then, we have been taught to pray, especially when we enter into spiritual life, for the entire world or for the entire
because
Vishwa.
that prayer is our sadhana. If we pray for the good of everybody, we will proceed along the spiritual path. That is our sadhana. But
No, but
at the same time, it is true that everything cannot be good in the world. It is impossible.
even in the prayers, there will be illusion in them.
Yes, everything cannot be good in the world. We pray that everything may be good, because that will purify our heart. Thinking good about others will purify us. But actual world, it can never happen.
And another question, Maharaj, after listening you, since you are telling that solution is to be discussed separately later on, but then in a short, our mother Sarda says that we should also pray for desirelessness.
Yeah.
So is it one of the important solutions?
Of course. That is the most important solution.
Okay.
But
Thank
we
you,
have
Maharaj.
to, Mother has said in a very short way, so the rationale behind it we have to understand. Why Mother has said in such a short way? Mother says everything in sutra form. Each word of Mother and Thakur is pregnant with meaning. Swami Vivekananda says that upon one teaching of Thakur, many books can be written. So this teaching, if we just hear once, we will not be able to grasp it because behind that so much lies.
Very right. Very right.
We can have
Thank
another
you. Thank
question
you.
because we have limited time in the Google. So one more question, please, and then people can offer their pranam and greetings to Maharaj Ji. So one more question we can accommodate. Thank you.
So nobody has any question. All the problems, all the doubts are solved. Yeah, that is very good. So one talk, if all the doubts are solved, then another talk is not necessary at all.
No. It is very much necessary. We will keenly look forward towards that.
Maharaj,
And-
actually,
Yeah.
Maharaj, actually, they are not able to come out of your
Spell.
your talk.
There's a magic spell.
So next time we can change our Google version to you can change it is just $10 a day so that you can have 24 hours time if necessary. Yeah, because otherwise there is always a tension. We get disconnected, something will happen. So just a small thing you have to pay and you can get the paid version of Google Meet.
We'll try to do that, Maharaji. It is a real treasure, and we heard two beautiful songs, one on Sri Ram and Swamiji, and the beautiful takeaway that we got, that is the good and evil are two sides of the same coin, and also the world of contradiction. So good and bad, both are there, and that is what Maya means. Good and evil are coexistent. So now I would request people to offer their pranam to Maharaj Ji and their greetings, but one by one. So please unmute, and others will remain muted. And then once you finish, you mute yourself, and other person. We can have 5 or 6 greetings for that matter. Thank you. Please be very short. Thank you.
महाराज को सब प्रणाम करके लेफ्ट कर
So it is okay. You can just
Pranam,
greet
Maharaj.
on everybody's behalf. Yeah, you can
Pranam,
just
Maharaj.
Nirmalda can greet on everybody's behalf, and next time we can have more time so that we can have as many questions as you like. Yeah.
Hiranya, you are there? Maybe Hiranya is not there. So on behalf of Vedanta Society of Philippines, we profusely thank Bhimananda Ji Maharaj for giving us such a wonderful insight and enlightened injection about what is Maya according to Vivekananda. We feel very much benefited, and we look forward towards another session, how to come out of this problem, how to face with the contradictions of life, how to take it with more calmness and equanimity. With this, we come to an end of this program, and now I will end the program. Pranam Maharaj Ji. Thank you, everybody. Please stay
Thank
healthy.
you.
And
Thank you so much.
Take care of your loved ones.
Feeling,
And
feeling
please stay healthy. I end the
I'm feeling
program here.
very,
And thank you, Maharaj Ji. Pranam
I'm
Maharaj
feeling
Ji.
very
once again.
sorry to leave, as if I'm leaving all the dear and near ones. But till we meet again.
Thank you, Maharaj Ji. Pranam. We end the program.
Thank you, Maharaj ji.